Good evening, everyone. My name is irrelevant, or at least that's what I thought it was. I am a really jealous person, envious even, of my parents, of my friends, of my cousins, of everyone, really. Because the majority of them have one thing in common, something I don't. Siblings. Either a sister, a brother, or both. Let me start this by telling you a little story. I remember on one of those summer days while I was walking on the beach with my cousins. We were talking about the future and where we saw ourselves after marriage. And I remember asking, "We're going to stay together, right? We're the siblings I never had." And as innocent as that question was, at the time, I didn't understand the reaction. The expressions changed. Sadness, pity, sympathy, they didn't answer. They were older, so they knew how life worked. They knew we would eventually drift apart. So now, when people ask me how many kids I want to have, it's always the same answer. 6 kids. First, the oldest, a boy, and then 2 years later, a set of quadruplets, 2 boys and 2 girls. And then lastly, the youngest, a little girl. And people's reaction to that is always the same. "Your poor wife? Why so many?" "Well, why do you think?" And then when they ask me about my future wife, the first thing I say is I do not care who she is or what she looks like, as long as she has siblings, many siblings, to compensate for the fact that I don't. Then I always link it to my cousins and how incredibly grateful I am to have them in my life. They are the closest thing to siblings I ever had. But it still wasn't the same. Because in the back of my mind, there was always a voice saying, "Your kids won't get to have that." As selfish and materialistic as I can be sometimes, I do cherish my privacy, my alone time, and all the perks that come with being an only child. I have really high self-esteem and an even higher ego in all that I do. But whenever it comes to this, and only this, I suddenly get stripped of all that confidence. Because as a human being, I wish I knew what it felt like to share a bedroom, to fight with my siblings over the last piece of pizza, to take a family picture with more than 3 people in it, to have someone to guide me, to clear a path for me, to show me the way. I wish there wasn't so much pressure on me to succeed. I wish I had a built-in best friend. But that wasn't the case, so I had to do all of those by myself, for myself. And it was hard. It got lonely. And you know, the games you get as a kid feel really useless when you have nobody to play them with. And on that note, let's do something. By raise of hands, who here has ever tried to play a game alone, even though the instructions clearly said 2 players or more? I did. A lot. And although I felt like I was living in a world alone, I would have loved to become that person for another kid. It didn't matter if they were older or younger, a boy or a girl. I just wanted someone I could call my sibling. Someone to be by my side at all times, through all times. So, I became the babysitter to all of my younger cousins so I could prove to myself and to my parents that I was good with kids. Every single Christmas, I jokingly wished for a brother. And every single birthday, I jokingly asked for a sister. In fact, my birthday is coming up in a few days, and the top thing on my wish list is still siblings, just like it always was. And then one day, after the joke stopped being funny, I finally asked my parents face to face, "Why aren't I like everyone else? Why don't I have siblings? Why didn't you try for another baby?" And it went like, just wasn't possible. As it turns out, my parents struggled a lot just to have me. I was considered a miracle child. And after 5 years of trying to bring me into this world, there I was. But after 3 more attempted trials, it turns out that my mom reached her limit. That her limit was me. After that, my parents jokingly gave me another answer. Manu, having you is like having 5 kids already. You couldn't handle another one of you. And they might be laughing, but I didn't take it as a joke. Before my grandmother passed away, there was one thing that deeply touched me. Watching my dad and his 4 siblings come together to take care of her. One stayed with her at the hospital, one took care of the medicine and food, one stayed at home with my grandfather, one handled all the appointments and paperwork, the last one constantly checked in on her so she'd never feel alone. And although it was a very painful time, the unity between them was beautiful to me. And so the joke about me being equal to 5 kids just never made sense to me. How could I, all alone, be equal to 5 people juggling between responsibilities? I know I was a lot to handle. I know I am a lot to handle. And maybe it's because I never had anyone to keep me in check. Anyway, I then realized that one day, when my parents grow old, hopefully after a very, very long time, I'll be the one who has to take care of them while also managing my own life and family. And to be clear, it would be my honor to give back even a fraction of the love and care they gave me. But knowing that somewhere out there, someone would be living the exact same thing, but with a support system by their side, just feels different. When I was little, I used to wonder why I didn't deserve having siblings. And with no answer in mind, I started developing deep attachment issues. And I think this is the first time I've ever admitted that out loud. Because my mind kept repeating, if you don't even have siblings, why would anyone genuinely care about you without wanting anything in return? And I got that proven more times than I care to remember, increasingly as of late. But from that point forward, I chose to see the bright side, and I chose to become that person for others. And although I thought I needed someone like that for myself, I was completely okay with being alone, as long as it meant I could make someone feel less alone. Now, to lighten the mood a bit, let me tell you a little fun fact. Last Christmas, I participated in a play, and that's where 2 kids, David and Maryam, who sadly couldn't make it here today, completely attached themselves to me. During breaks, rehearsals, training, backstage, everywhere, the whole time. And people kept asking me, aren't you tired of them following you around wherever you go? And my answer never changed. I was grateful for it. I was happy. I was insanely proud of myself. Because for the first time, I felt like I had become someone important to them. I had 2 kids who looked up to me, who wanted to follow my every step, who were jealous whenever I wasn't with them, and who wanted my opinion in everything they did. So, whenever they were around, I felt the need to become better. I felt special. I felt like a big brother. After that, I went back to the responsibilities I had chosen for myself at the start of the year. Over its course, I learned, I taught, I loved deeply what I was doing, why I was doing it, and who I was doing it for. And sadly, right at the finish line, everything spiraled out of control. And somewhere along the way, I thought I lost the joy who made me who I was. I thought I lost myself in the process of making others find theirs. And looking back at it, now I understand why. I kept trying to build a bond as I felt obligated to. And that bond grew into attachment, and that attachment just never ends well on my part. Although for some time, I got to have a mini-me, little sisters, many kids, and a best friend. And it didn't stop here. At the beginning of the year, I had to choose one person to become responsible for. And I made that choice. With time, effort, and an unbelievable amount of patience, that one started calling me their big brother. That person became the sibling I never had, the first person in my life to ever truly hold that title. And it might have been selfish of me to enjoy the attention, to enjoy feeling admired, important, needed. But I also love knowing that I could make someone feel safer, happier, and less alone. That I could be a source of comfort in the lives of a second family. And somehow, that just made me feel worthy. Worthy of being a brother, worthy of taking care of others, just worthy. And then one day, after a few amazing months, a day came where hate took over, and out of absolutely nowhere, I hear the words, "You really don't deserve to be anyone's brother." As unreal as it was, those words hurt more than anything I had ever heard before. Especially coming from that person, especially knowing I did not deserve that, and I've heard a lot. Then, I realized that that person I dared to consider my sibling, was someone I sacrificed for a lot. Someone whose wants and needs I constantly prioritized over my own. Someone who now only lives in the flashbacks of my life. For the first time in my life, I didn't calculate the risk of getting attached. And it led to me losing that person. And I lost that bond not because I failed it, but because it was failed to be respected. I gave myself time to settle, time to remember what I stand for, and to accept that the only way out is through. To accept that my self-respect has to be greater than my desire to be loved. I understood that my attachment was a consequence of the frame I was put into as an only child. I've worked hard to become the person I am today. Over the course of my life, I've been blamed for a lot, especially this year. But personally, I won't allow to blame others for my failures. That's why I aim for better. I constantly try to help the people around me. I try to minimize the damage I may cause. I never hold grudges, and I don't believe in revenge. I apologize whenever I know I did something wrong, and I choose to see life through a brighter lens. I choose to enjoy the fact that I get to wake up every day and to try again, and to keep trying until it all works out. Because with or without siblings, I know I'll get there. And even though I might not know where there really is yet, I know it's somewhere beyond the frame. With all the people who've entered and left my life, and with all the time I've spent alone, I've learned something important. Everything is temporary. But temporary does not mean worthless. And not everything in life has to last for it to be meaningful. And once I accepted that, I understood that not having siblings isn't necessarily a bad thing. It taught me that the only constant in life is change. And so, it is unfair, life is unfair, and it feels so scary getting old. People change, and they forget, and they get influenced. But what's important is that you don't. I personally refuse to let all those years of loneliness go by without meaning something. Which is why I became autonomous and self-sufficient. I embraced the fact that I was unique, not just because of the lack of siblings, but because of who I was as a person. And I made that clear wherever I went. I became sociable and I made friends everywhere because of my personality. And besides, for a long time now, I have been defining my life with happiness. And even though I might still under or overestimate the reciprocity of someone's attachment towards me, I might get called naive, but I'm not. I just find so much comfort in knowing I have so much of myself to give to others. I was forced to grow up faster. And as a person who chooses to see the glass half full, as a person who knows victimizing yourself won't get you anywhere, as a person who knows that excuses are the only chains that hold you back, it was time for me to look inward and start asking myself the big questions. Is it worth it? Will I be held back by this? Will I let this become my excuse? And the answer was painfully clear. Obviously not. Because everything in life is a win when the goal is to experience, which is what I'm doing right now. I'll create my own frame. I'll go above and beyond the frame of the sibling experience, one where I stand front and center, just like I'm doing right now. So once again, my name is relevant, and it's Emmanuel El Khoury. I'm an only child, and it was never about changing that. It was always about changing my perspective of it. Thank you for joining me, and I hope you all have an amazing afternoon.